This is Robert Mardlacci, the MindShare Learning Report. Welcome to MindShareTV, where we sit down with leaders who are shaping the future of education, technology, and leadership. Today's guest, Rob Dickson, Chief Information Officer of Wichita Public Schools, one of the largest districts in Kansas, and a longtime member in the KansasCityCIO Advisory Board, part of the national InspireCIO Leadership Network. Award-winning, multi-award-winning, I would say. And we go back a number of years where we cross paths at many conferences and always inspired by his growth mindset and innovator's mindset. George Couros will be proud of me saying that, no doubt. Rob recently shared a post that struck a nerve with CIOs across education and enterprise alike. The headline said it all. Pilot season is over. It's time for production. Drawing on insights from McKinsey's 2025 Tech Trends and Outlook and Deloitte's Tech Trends 2026, Rob argues that generative AI is moving out of experimentation into operational core, becoming smaller, more distributed, and more practical. Today, we talk about what the shift really means for K-12 systems, public sector CIOs, and leaders who are tired of flashy demos and ready for real, scalable value. Rob, welcome to MindShareTV. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. This is going to be a great conversation. I'm going to enjoy this one.
Absolutely, and perhaps you can. And look forward to seeing you at the Future of Ed conference in Orlando next month. One of the premier gatherings of the year, no doubt, and particularly for 2026. It's never been a more fascinating time to be in education. And talk to me about your career trajectory before we get into the questions and how you ended up where you are. Because, career pathways are really, top of mind for the co-op students in our Co-working Innovation Center among all young people today. And mid-career, it's lifelong learning at its best, and it's a challenge to figure out where things are going. But you're leading the way in many respects.
Yeah, if I had to go back that far, I was not a great high school student. I would say that. Married my high school sweetheart though. We've been married almost 30 years next year. Have three daughters. They're 28, 26, 23. So whenever I think about technology and where they're at today, I remember leaving high school. My mom had signed me up for the military whenever I was 16. So I joined the Air Force, left a month after high school, never looked back, went to college in a lot of different places as I traveled, and ended up in Wichita, Kansas, where one of my best friends, she said, "Hey, I'm going to create you a position to come into Andover Public Schools." So then worked in Andover for 15 years, became the director of technology sometime in between there, and then went to Omaha Public Schools, where I was CIO of Omaha Public Schools for over 5 years, and then came to Wichita Public Schools in August of 2019. So I'm a non-traditional student. I think about where we're at today with college and career readiness. It's really focused more on career than it is college readiness, I would say. And it very much reflects an apprenticeship model that you see a lot of kids going into today, where it's similar to my military experience, right? Like I shadow someone, I do a lot of applied learning. In fact, today, I hire 13 applied learning students to do tech work for me in the summertime, as well as 9 throughout the school year. And I've hired 4 of those folks over the last 4 years. And I think it's really the future of where we're leaning to is this. You think about AI, it has a life cycle of skills, right? And I think we're moving away from a 4-year degree lasting your lifetime to being some type of life cycle for the skills that you acquired.
Brilliant. And we have co-op students and interns here all year long. So I really subscribe to that notion of mentorship. And it's really about durable skills, isn't it? We have the 7 C's here in Canada: that we created through our non-for-profit C21 Canada. But, I know there's Portrait of a Graduate. The skills these kids garner under our watch and mentorship is, I say to them, I wish I was you. I wish I was in your position being mentored by, we've got a software engineering third-year student from Western, a professor from the Middle East with design, and then myself, and these high school kids do the work we do. We throw everything at them. So when you give them agency, the sky's the limit, isn't it?
Yeah, I even think yesterday we had a student AI day at Truesdale Middle School where kids use Canva code to vibe code and generate whether it be an interactive game, an activity in their class. And so today, and they publish those to their teachers. And then today, the students are going around ranking those apps and experiencing them throughout the day. So,
brilliant.
I think curiosity is that's monetarily who we are as people in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. What advice would you give to your 14-year-old self?
Whew, man. I would say know the landscape and better prepare yourself for different micro learning activities that can help shape who you are. I think it's the little things that happen in consistency rather than the big things that you try to go for. I think consistency is everything. And if you can be consistent with your employer, consistent with your skills, I think you'll succeed in today's arena.
Brilliant. And as you alluded to earlier, it's not a direct path. And I was not traditional. I studied sport management and was a SID at a university with 45 sports teams pre-internet. So that was pretty remarkable, experience, multitasking at its best, and helped me prepare me for what I do today in my role at Mindshare Learning Media. Well, let's jump into the AI spectrum here. You said that saying we're piloting AI in 2026 sounds like we're piloting email. That's a strong statement, especially in K-12, where risk and trust matter deeply. Talk to me about, before we get into the trends, what are you seeing on the ground in a district like Wichita that tells you the experimentation phase is ending, which is really exciting because you've done your homework, it sounds like.
Yeah, we've trained staff now for over 2 years on generative AI, and it started with ChatGPT, and we taught data privacy and data security to those folks as we did it. And as I think about the workflow of the workforce today, it could be a teacher. It always starts with a human, the idea, what you need, and then those tasks in between can happen with AI or be augmented with AI. And then there's a human at the end. I always think of Saba Quidwai, who has this graphic that she posted on LinkedIn. And I love to replicate that for every position in our district. I even think about, we're in charge of our clerical in-service that we have 3 times a year. Even with clerical, you think about it, right? Like, what are the mundane tasks that can be replicated with AI to help them save time, because they're inundated throughout the day with people coming in and interrupting them. And so even taking a para or a teacher and thinking about those tasks that no longer have to be done by human. And I think it's an important process for us to go through as an organization, but also as a society, to think about those things too, because the future of work is going to be very different than what we've experienced in the past. You're muted, Rob.
Sorry about that. One of the trends you called out is the shift from cloud to edge. AI models getting smaller, running directly on devices like laptops, phones, and even IoT. In a district environment, what problems does edge actually solve, and where do you think leaders misunderstand the trade-offs between control, cost, and capability?
I really think when I'll give an example. Today, Google released Gemini Flash, right? Super fast. It's as good as Gemini Pro is. And that smaller model is as smart as the larger model. And so whenever I think of the tasks that can be done on this device, not always are you in an environment where you have the bandwidth to use a cloud type application, nor do you want the security. You'll want, if you're on that device, you want many times a higher level security if you're in your organization. So I think on-device AI is going to be something that's going to help us in the process of computing, because whenever I think about our movement toward doing things with that thought partner, if I'm strategically thinking, I will probably use a cloud-based AI, right? And I'm doing planning or I'm working on a document. But if I need professional development as a clerical person, and I just need someone or something to show me what to do on the screen, it's a great task to be done by that edge-based AI. And whenever I look at where we're moving to as a society, I think you'll see Apple release a Siri model that's a lot smarter, and that can, my Siri on my iPad just but we'll have the privacy that you want, because I think what we lack today is privacy in AI and so many of the applications that we use, whether, because we use several different tools. How many tools do you use? I think I probably use 4 or 5 AI tools across my workflow.
Right. And same. Yeah. And now, have you gotten into the agentic AI? Is it seamless in your email and that sort of thing?
Yeah. So I have an attendant, an assistant that provides. I have 11 scheduled tasks that happen every morning. Some of it does research for me. Some of it gathers the input of my day to inform me of my day. I didn't replace my executive assistant, and I'm working through the hard right now. Right.
So human connection is still very important.
Absolutely. Right. And I still use some people for those connections.
Right.
But I can see a plausible future where there's something there to help me. I'll give an example. Yesterday, our Board of Education secretary said, "Hey, I saw that you did this thing at Truesdale. Could you write something up for our Board of Education newsletter? It goes to board members on Friday." My AI assistant had already written what had happened, because I posted the transcription and everything. And so it had replied. The only thing I had to do was validate it and hit send. So I didn't have to think about it. Didn't give it a cognitive load. Was it accurate? Absolutely. I didn't have to change any word. So there are a lot of efficiencies that can happen in this.
Absolutely. We just had our C21 AI Task Force national webinar yesterday that I hosted on the release of our report. And it gave me an elegant summary of all the highlights of the conversation. And to your point, I reviewed it, scanned it, it was accurate, and now I'm going to share it. So I'm a big fan of the efficiencies that AI could afford. But you have to be strategic, no doubt. So let's jump into the next question. You also highlighted that the future isn't one model to run them all, but a hybrid architectures, multiple specialized models working together. From a CIOs, for the CIOs listening who are overwhelmed, and there are many, how should leaders think about orchestration versus ownership? What capabilities need to live in-house versus being consumed as services? This says, are you virtual? Is your data center, are you hybrid? Are you in the hybrid? Yeah.
I would say 80% of our data center sits in Azure.
Yeah.
We house about 20% of our infrastructure here. When I think about AI, it works very well in highly verifiable tasks. So if you looked at Arizona State University's 6 levels of problem solving,
Right.
academia is like the first to third level, and then as you get to those higher level problems where it's a range of problems that may not solve the entire problem, like climate change would be one, COVID would have been one. So it could take a range of those problems. AI is not going to do great at those problems because it requires judgment, subjectiveness, and humans need to be there in order to intercede and make a rational decision. However, those like level 1 problems where we know 2 plus 2 always equals 4, highly verifiable problem can be done with AI. Whenever I think about how we're applying AI and those tasks to our district, one, Coleman Middle School, we went through a problem of practice, and we've done this with all of our chatbots that we've generated. With Coleman specifically, we interviewed the staff to find out, like, all right, how, instead of having a solution looking for a problem, let's actually figure out what the problem is and prepare a solution for it. So we went through that. We were part of Education First cohort of AI coherence candidates. And so when we went through the problem of practice and interviewed, they had been a magnet for 2 years, yet they'd had mobility in staff to where they weren't teaching, nor were their staff prepared to teach environmental science in their core. So we developed a chatbot that would help do that for them. We also bought these growth towers that have sensors that then students can use AI to measure the effectiveness of environmental science in the classroom.
Incredible. We visited a college up in north of Calgary when we were hosting a summit last year, and we saw some of the instruments they're using in farming. Incredible innovation, and mission critical, right? Food, having quality food and optimizing the crop it's incredibly sophisticated. So that would be an area from career pathways, opportunities, Absolutely. Right? Agriculture is one of them. Well, let's jump into a really fascinating next question. You used the phrase, I love industrialized AI, moving from cool demos to boring, reliable, scalable value. In education, boring is often a compliment. What does industrialized AI actually look like in a school system? Can you give us examples where AI should fade into the background and deliver measurable outcomes for students and teachers? Everyone's at a different place, and my read of where you're at is you've been leading the way and doing your homework, and digital transformation is a process. Talk to me about where things are at when it comes to industrializing AI.
I think one of the things that we always think about, right, when you first utilized generative AI, it was for a downstream effect, right? You were creating something. You had an idea, you wanted to create it, you refined it, you had an output. Whenever I think about specifically some of our cases for upstream effects, we've been working with UTW, our local teachers union, as well as AFT, developing chatbots for SPED, special education. In that problem of practice, what we found was there's a huge need to analyze former IEPs for accuracy, to see if we're meeting the qualifications that we need to on it. So whenever I think about industrialized AI, it's the upstream effects. It's going up and analyzing existing data to find out if we're being accurate as an educational system. And I think you'll see more and more of that as these models become better researchers for us to research and give us the data points that we need. Because I just absorbed our research department in the spring and moved it underneath our AI specialist. So now it's research and intelligence. And I really feel like it's both upstream and downstream. And thinking about industrialized AI, you're meeting the needs of both the past and the future with what data that you have.
Well said. Let's talk about leadership. Technology shifts are rarely the hard part. It's really people and process. Are as CIO working with educators, administrators, and boards, what mindset shifts are required to move from pilots to production? How do you help teams let go of the experimentation without destroying innovation?
Yeah. So I think there's like a pathway for everyone. That's a little bit different. It depends on your digital literacy level that you're on right now. And then you move into this AI literacy level. And then you need to move to an AI fluency level. And when you think about AI fluency, you're thinking about the life cycle of all the processes that you do, and maybe some parts of your workflow work with another. And those points, when you start to reach that AI fluency, is I think when you get to this level of, I call it superpower, that you didn't have before. And if I had to equate it, it would be like a teacher initially in AI literacy would develop lessons, right? And understand that. In AI fluency, they would also take the grades, the data, the feedback, the reinforcement to help reinforce the active learning that happens within the classroom and help them change that. It becomes a change in human practice because you've got higher level resources for you and an ability to apply intelligence to any task.
Brilliant. Incredible insights. I feel like if you haven't written a book yet, I think there's a book in the making here. And I'm going to wish one upon you, because when I do that, I've seen many publishers as a result of me manifesting for you. So there you go. I've got one coming out as well related to AI, but it's about the humans. It's about being human in the age of AI, and it's coming out in the new year. So that's,
Smoke works for me. She's amazing. Yeah. She's in charge of digital citizenship and literacy. Yeah. We started a K-6 school last year, K-6 one-room schoolhouse, because I feel like the future of learning is elementary school is learning by doing. Middle school is skill discovery, and high school is skill development. In our Creative Minds micro school, we have 40 kids there, K through 6, one-room schoolhouse. So think about that. It's Montessori style, but then project-based learning. So it's a 2.5-hour instruction model.
Right.
Then they go right into project-based learning, and kids are learning.
And they feed off each other, the older kids, the younger kids. Yeah, brilliant. I love it. I mean, we kind of do that here. We have entrepreneurs in our co-working space, and we have students, and we all collaborate, and we learn from each other. I learn from the kids as much as they learn from me. So it's a mutual mentorship, if you will. Let's touch on risk, trust, and governance. Public education has a higher bar for privacy, security, and trust. As AI becomes invisible and embedded, what guardrails must be in place before scaling? And how do you balance speed and with stewardship when the pressure to do something with AI is everywhere? I was just at an EdTech gathering, leadership gathering a couple weeks ago with Kathy Hurley and friends, and talking to the Microsoft Florida representative, Adam, who's a good friend. Adam, awesome. So we had a great conversation about this very topic that we're drilling into, and quite a challenge, but talk to me about where you're at.
Yeah, so we're partners of Microsoft, work with them on a lot of different things, including an AI chatbot right now that we're developing to help our parents through enrollment. When I think of governance, I think of like creating the right ecosystem. And I think it's important as a CIO, I have to sit on both sides, right? When you think about app approval processes, and we do this today, so AI is a product and it's also a feature. And guess what? It's probably going to be more of a feature in the products that you see coming in. And the challenge that we have is we'll have to change our app approval process to be at a higher frequency, to also discuss and look at AI as a feature. Is it training on your data? Are they selling your data? All those pieces will have to be integrated into existing packages that we've already approved and go through a rigorous process of reapplying that same structure to, we have over 1,000 apps in our app approval tool right now. And, it's something that we'll have to, I think as with any general purpose technology, right? It'll be a heavy lift for quite a while until we find the right tools that can help us navigate it.
No doubt. Looking ahead, we're sitting here, 18 to 24 months in now. What will the most effective K-12 CIOs have done differently with AI? What laggards still are, lead you to be stuck in pilots, and sustainability? The theme of our fall Canadian EdTech Summit was around empowering human-centered sustainable learning in an AI world. That sustainability piece, I just haven't figured that out in my mind, is how these districts are going to manage budgetarily, as an example, right? So talk to me about where things are going, and what advice you have to other CIOs as well who aren't where you're at. You're leading the way, and amplifying your story, I think, is so essential to help others, pull them along and provide some leadership and mentorship.
So there's a cost, right? If you're going to be early, there's a higher cost. Yet, what I would say, the skills that are developed by the organization are worth the cost. Because if you wait, and you always hear people talk about, it's not going to be AI that replaces you, it's somebody that's going to know AI that replaces you. I think when you look into the near-term future, and what used to, we would project 5 years out. I can't tell you what happens 18 months from now, right? Like, it's true. At that trajectory. I think it's important to make sure that you're managing risk while thinking about every job is going to be different. And we also have to think organizationally, how do we change job descriptions across the entire organization to meet the needs of what 2028 student needs, right? And staff member needs. And projecting like that, it almost seems like a reskilling of a workforce. And when you think of it in that manner, you invest heavily ahead of time to be able to provide the professional development for the staff to make that transition. And I think for those out there that are just coming in, I wouldn't have done it the same way if I started today than I did when we started in late 2023, because the tools weren't available then. I have a higher level of tool set today than I did then. And I would do it very differently. But then in the same way, if you started today and somebody's waiting to start in 2026, I would probably start very differently in 2026 than I did today, just because the environment changes so quickly. Even whenever I think about Copilot and what we use in our district, every time I'm using a model, there's another cake in the oven being baked that's a higher order of magnitude better than the one that I'm using today. And that cake has better icing. It's got a better experience. It has probably tools to analyze data sets that aren't available today. I remember context windows were a larger issue just even a year ago. And today, I can stuff 300-page documents in and synthesize them in a matter of moments. So skilling people and making sure that you continuously learn. Like we talked about learning at the very start of this conversation. Right. And I would say probably for the unforeseen future, you're going to have to hyperlearn.
Rob Dickson, thank you so much for your time today. This, in my estimation, is one of the most important, fascinating, rich MindShareTV podcasts I've had this past year. So kudos to you. Grateful for your time. Thank you for bringing a grounded leadership first perspective to a conversation that desperately needs to happen for our audience. If you're still asking, should we pilot AI? The better question might be, how do we make it boring enough to scale? That was Rob Dickson, CIO at Wichita Public Schools. My name is Robert Marlacci of the Mindshare Learning Report, MindShareTV. Be sure to check out www.mindshare learning to get your latest issue. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.